Hey, I think we can go ahead and get started. Thanks again for joining if you just logged in. So this is a webinar focused on the postgraduate programs offered by the School of English and Digital Humanities here at University College Cork. So you're very welcome to this session. And before we get started, I'll just do a bit of housekeeping. So the session will be recorded, so it can be shared with you afterwards as well. So it'll be made available to those who are interested in studying at UCC as well. So it'll be available to those who may be registered but couldn't join the session live. Each of our presenters today will take you through one of the programs offered at the School of English and Digital Humanities here at UCC. You will see there's a Q&A box as well, so if you have any questions as we go through, do feel free to put your questions in the box, and we will pick them up at the end of the session. I suppose to get us started, I did just want to provide a brief introduction to University College Cork for those who maybe aren't from Cork. I know we've got people dialing in from outside of Cork and further afield as well. So just to give you brief overview of UCC. It was originally established as Queen's College Cork in 1845, and the campus is set on 42 acres of wooded ground, and we're only about 15 minutes walk from Cork City, so it's quite close to the city centre. You can see on the right in that image, that's our main quadrangle, also known as the Quad, and that's the oldest part of the university. It's very busy at the moment because our autumn conferrings are happening now, and it is somewhat of a tradition for our graduates to get a photo taken with their degree on the Quad. But for the week that's in it, being Halloween later this week, I did want to share one of our superstitions as well here on campus. So it is considered to be bad luck if you're a student and you haven't finished your studies to walk on the grass or on the gravel within the quadrangle before you've finished. Is it true or not? I'm not sure, but I probably wouldn't try it myself just in case. To give you maybe some information about our student population as well, here at UCC, we're home to over 25,000 students, with almost 5,000 students joining us from outside of Ireland, and we do have over 100 countries represented within our student population as well. And we're a very green campus. We've recently received our 5th green flag, which recognizes our efforts in terms of sustainability on campus and promoting biodiversity as well. And in terms of, our students and the activities they can get involved with on campus, we do have over 100 societies and 50 clubs. So no matter what sport you're interested in or, how you'd like to spend some of your free time, we do have clubs and societies to cater for everyone. And on the right as well, you can see there's the bust of George Boole, who was the first professor of mathematics at UCC and who actually laid the foundation for the digital age with his work on Boolean logic and algebra. In terms of the campus and where we're located and where things are situated, this is just an aerial view of the central campus. Kind of number 6 in the middle here next to that is just our central quad, the oldest part of the university. See, we have the student centre listed here at number 2, and also our library building, which is number 5. So really that's the core part of the campus, but we do have buildings located elsewhere nearby in Cork City or just around the buildings also. If you're a student on one of our English and Digital Humanities programs, you'll likely be spending a good bit of time in building number 4, which is the O'Rahilly building. And also we have a gallery on campus, the Glucksman Gallery, which is a nice space to go if you just want to break from lessons and study. And also nearby, you can see number 11 next to the River Lee is our Mardyke Sports Complex as well, which all of our students will have access to. And in terms of where we are at the university, UCC is located in Cork City, which is the southernmost city in Ireland. And it is well located, for accessing other cities in Ireland as well. If it's well connected, if you want to go to Dublin, for a weekend or for a day or two, that's only about 3 hours away by bus. We're also well connected to East and West Cork, about an hour away on the coast. If you're looking to go a bit further afield too, we do have an international airport that's about 20 minutes away, and that's got good connections as well with the UK and with mainland Europe too, if you're looking to head over somewhere else for a weekend. So I hope that just gives a brief sense of UCC and where we are and kind of what it's like to be a student here. So we will move on now to hear from our postgraduate program teams who will talk you through our programs, and we'll come at the end then to our Q&A session. So to start with, I'd like to introduce Mr. Danny Denton, who will speak to us today about our MA in Creative Writing. Thanks, Danny.
Thanks, Phil. Yeah, so the MA in Creative Writing is a course designed holistically, I think, to help people who are interested in writing a book improve their writing. And if you dream of writing a book, the course is certainly for you. If you love books and are interested in publishing them, I think the course is for you. And it's, when I say holistic, I suppose it has a number of components that address all the needs and requirements of someone who is interested in writing, publishing at a professional level. We have modules in fiction, poetry, creative nonfiction. We have modules in reading, in terms of reading from the point of view of a writer. But aside from the modules, we would also have a work placement component where you work in a creative industry, for example, at a book festival or with a publisher. And we also have a series of visiting speakers in a module called The Business of Writing, which gives you an insight. So you would hear each week from editors of books, writers of books, agents of writers, and all the various roles and jobs that can arise in the publishing industry. So in that sense, the course is kind of designed to give you in-depth skills in terms of improving your writing, the writing of your sentences or your lines of poetry, but also in-depth kind of connections and ideas about what it is actually like to work as a writer or as an editor or as a publisher. The year is structured into 3 semesters. Semester 1 and semester 2, you take the aforementioned modules, which you'll find listed on our website. And in the 3rd semester, or anywhere up to the 3rd semester, actually, you're encouraged to do your work placement. In that 3rd semester, you also spend a concentrated amount of time, usually 3 months, writing your MA thesis, which for all intents and purposes is the first 50 pages of that book that you want to write. So for example, if you dream of being a novelist, you want to write a trilogy of fantasy novels, this is where you'll write the first 50 pages of that with expert kind of tuition and close supervision from one of our team. And you leave in September. That's your MA thesis is 40%, I think, of your grade. But more importantly than that, for me, you leave in September, let's say 2026, with the first 50 pages of your book written and a good start and momentum and all the inspiration that that year has brought. So that's kind of the program in a nutshell. I want to emphasize the kind of importance to us of being in Cork, in terms of Cork has a number of literary festivals, the West Cork Literary Festival, the Cork International Short Story Festival, the Cork International Poetry Festival, the World Book Festival. Alongside all those festivals, which spread out over the year, we have a pretty active literary scene. There are different nights on different times of the month for budding writers and poets and performance artists. And so that when you join the MA in Creative Writing, you're also kind of signing up to being part of this scene, and all these things are going on all the time and give you a chance to get out there and experience them. So I think we're very closely tied to the city in that regard, and it's a really important, let's say, kind of off the books element of how we can contribute and what you can learn here. In terms then, just to wrap up, in terms of what people do afterwards, a number of literary magazines have started out of the course in recent years. So I think there's it is possibly the golden age of literary magazines in Ireland at the moment, with magazines like The Stinging Fly, Banshee, Four-Faced Liar, Howl, the Dublin Review, and a number of students have gone on to start a number of journals, which are all doing well out there in the world. We have, of course, got a fairly stacked bookshelf of writers who've gone on to publish books. I think that the MA is in its 11th year, and I think we've published nearly 20 books at this point. Different writers have published about 20 books, graduates of the course. So people do go on to write those books and work in different areas of publishing and put on nights and head out there into the world as artists, which is always makes us very proud, and we're very glad to be connected to them in that sense. And I think that's as close as I can get to a brief overview. I would encourage you to look at the website for more information on program requirements, which is all really well presented on the CAC's website. And you'll find out more there about modules. But of course, you can also email me at any point with questions. I'm sure Philip can share our details at some point in terms of other emails. Thanks.
Thanks, Danny. Thanks a lot for that overview of the program. And yes, we'll definitely be sharing all of the presenters' details today and links to the program web pages as well if you haven't already logged on and had a look at those. So thanks very much. So we'll move on now to our MA in Digital Art and Humanities and our online MA in Digital Cultures. And Dr. Stephen Roddy is going to introduce us to those. Thanks, Stephen.
Hi, I'm Stephen. So I'm just going to take you through the Digital Arts, Humanities and Digital Cultures. I'm covering two at once because essentially they kind of come as a pair. So Digital Arts and Humanities is an in-person, normal, standard MA, but our Digital Cultures MA is delivered completely online. So as you could imagine, they're kind of like sister programs and there's a lot of crossover. So I'll just flag where things are different between the two MAs as we go through things here. So let's just take it from the first slide there. So the big kind of question like with digital humanities is what is digital humanities? So just to give a kind of like a bit of context and background, it sits at the intersection of the study of technologies and the arts and humanities. So it kind of works both ways in that there's a flow from arts and humanities towards technology and technology back to arts and humanities, which is to say it applies frameworks and ideas from the arts and humanities to critique and guide the development of technologies, to create more ethical technologies and technologies that can improve our lives and the world around us. But it also goes the other way around and applies technological tools to answer questions in the arts and humanities. So this might be doing some kind of big data analysis, for example, in a history project to try to better understand how maybe commerce worked in the Middle Ages, for example. Now, I'm not a historian, so that's a really bad example. But on to the next slide, please. So just a little bit, about teaching ethos. So because it's kind of got this mixture of humanities and digital technology, our teaching ethos has to be somewhat different to what you may have experienced before. So it's transdisciplinary in nature, which gives us a unique opportunity to kind of cross between fields and kind of integrate concepts and techniques from different fields. And as a result, we have to have an approach that's quite hands-on. So you'll learn a lot by doing, but it's going to be an accurate, academically rigorous approach. So while you'll be doing, making, creating a lot, applying different ideas in technology, it's all grounded in theory, but there is still that focus on practice. So we try to integrate critical and creative perspectives. You'll have to acquire and integrate knowledge both from the humanities and from technical subjects, which can be quite a challenge. I've been working in and around this field myself for years. My background is music, and then I did a PhD in something in electronic engineering. So bringing those two worlds together is always a challenge. They're not always things that talk very well to each other, but what we try to do here is to give you the skills to do that, to give you a little bit of both. So the practical focus then is reflected in our assessment strategies in the department, which tend to focus on projects and assignments and a big focus on continuous assessment. So just the next slide there, if you could. All right, so when it comes to entry requirements, we've got kind of like three main kind of entry requirement standards, for want of a better word. You need a second class honours grade 1 in a primary honours degree. So that's level 8 or equivalent in any discipline. Where the student's second language is English, we need an IELTS score of above 6.5. This is just because it's quite a complex course, crosses two different kinds of English, like technical English and, English in the arts and humanities. So you really do need a good grasp of the English language, obviously, to do well in the course. And also, when you're applying to do the course, we ask students to submit a statement describing why they want to do the course and how they think digital humanities is going to help them and help to improve their vision for their future research or their future career. Next slide, please. Thanks. Okay, so I'm not going to go into the program structure in detail, but just to let you know, we've got kind of a core module structure where we focus on modules that everybody has to take. So the core modules essentially will give you the basic skills to get you kind of up and running in the digital humanities. Outside of that, we have electives from across the arts and humanities and across computer science as well. So there's a good mix there. So for example, you can take classes for computer science, but you can also take a class in sound studies from the music department, for example. And we also have electives that are digital humanities specific electives, like I do one on the history of digital art, which is kind of a mixture of both that kind of computing approach and that humanities approach. And to top everything off in your second semester, there's a dissertation project. Now, just to flag a difference here between the online and the in-person kind of MAs. In the online MA, there's less choice about what subject you can do because essentially you're going to be doing digital humanities only subjects, whereas in person you get to choose from a range of other subjects that are done by our colleagues in computer science and also across the arts and humanities. We pop on to the next one. All right, so the dissertation, I probably should have mentioned in more detail, is worth 30 credits, and that's kind of like your last 3 months during the summer. That's like the capstone for your entire project, or for your entire master's. And it connects directly to our exit awards. So we've got 3 exit awards, essentially. If you do the basic program, you can leave with a certificate. If you do the basic program and a project during the summer, you can get a diploma. And if you do the basic program and a project dissertation that you submit, you can get a MA master's. So there's 3 different levels at which you can come out of the course. And then the next slide, possibly. Okay, so just to give an overview of like some opportunities, job opportunities, what people go on to next. We've had, unsurprisingly, a lot of people move into information technology afterwards, but also an equal number of people get involved in the cultural heritage industries. We've got graduates who are working in design, some go into consultancy. Journalism has been growing for us in recent years as a place where students go, especially where you've got that focus on data-driven journalism. We also put people in publishing, museums and galleries, the design industry, which I already mentioned, but here we go again. So we have a lot of people in design. And also academia. So people go on to further levels of education like PhD and moving on from there. And the final slide, yeah. So just to give an example of a success story in recent years, Max Darby was with us a few years ago. He did the BA and MA in UCC in Digital Humanities and Philosophy. After that, he moved on to become AI Solutions Architect at Musgraves and has subsequently begun an industry-sponsored PhD there. And he currently lectures at UCC, and he's also lecturing at Trinity College in Dublin. And he's an example of a graduate who was able to mix the kind of humanities background and the arts background together to kind of create his own sort of path and do what he wanted to do with his own kind of career and future, but using this kind of integration of humanities and arts subject, philosophy, and the digital skills that you get in digital humanities. All right, I think that's us. So if you have any questions about either of the courses, those are some links to both of the courses. And please do get in touch, estradi@ucc.ie. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Stephen. And actually, just one thing that occurred to me when you were speaking that it might be useful for the attendees here today to just hear a little bit about is there's a special, I suppose, facility for students who are studying digital humanities at UCC with, I suppose, kind of, cutting edge equipment and kind of a special space for them to work on projects and coursework as well, isn't there? Yeah.
Yeah, there is. Down in the food science building, we've got our own dedicated work area where it's a reconfigurable room and it's got computing resources, but it's also just a very easy place to come and work. And because of the hands-on nature of the course, we kind of had to build our own kind of special dedicated room that allows students a kind of a flexible approach to how they undertake classes and their own research.
Excellent. Great. Thanks, Stephen. I think that was definitely worth highlighting too. Yeah, always good to have an extra space to go and study because at peak times of the year, the library is pretty busy at UCC, as I'm sure it is in many other places. Thank you very much, Stephen. So we'll move on now to hear more about our higher diploma in arts in English, and the program coordinator, Dr. Heather Laird, is going to talk us through that program. Thanks very much, Heather.
Hello, everyone, and want to just welcome you to this podcast. I know a few people came in a little bit later there, so you're very welcome. And for those who did come in a little later, if you have any questions, of course, you can put them into the comments section. So I'm the coordinator of the Higher Diploma in Arts English. And Philip, if you just move on to the first slide there. So I suppose the first thing I want to address is who the programme is for. And we really have 3 cohorts of students who take the HDIP in English. So students have to, in terms of kind of what students are expected to have and have to enroll in the programme, students have to have a degree in another subject. Okay, so a degree in another subject or other subjects. And the programme is designed for students who really have already studied but wish to change direction and want to pursue English. Now, there's 3 main reasons why art students enroll on this programme. Probably the largest cohort are students who are teaching or want to pursue a career in teaching, and they want to have English as part of their portfolio. So they want to be able to teach English at second level. So the program essentially gives those students the required number of credits that the Teaching Council requires for you to teach English at second level. Students obviously who want to teach at second level need the HDIP in education, but if they want to have English as a subject, then this program gives them that number of credits that are required to teach English at second level. So they would be probably the largest cohort of students, and some of those students will have already commenced teaching careers, but wish to teach English. Some are just enhancing their portfolios in advance of teaching at second level to, I suppose, give them an edge in terms of having an extra subject. Second cohort of students who tend to take this program are students who already have a degree in another subject but want to go on and do graduate work. But they've realised as they've been going through their degree that actually what they're interested in is literature, books, culture. And this programme then, it provides them with a pathway from a degree in another subject to doing MA work, an MA in English. So, and again, provides them with the credits and the experience that they would need for that. A third cohort of students are students who actually simply want to study English for its own sake. They don't have a kind of tangible reason why they're doing it. They have no sort of end goal, but they've always wanted to do that. And some of those students might be older students, even retired, people who've retired, but have loved, have been reading all their lives and love books. At an earlier stage in their life, they've done a degree, but they realise now that what they really want to do is study English at third level. And for some of those students, we find talking to them that maybe English was something they wanted to do initially. It was always their love, but they were steered into maybe a different direction. And now they're getting to fulfill that dream of studying English at university. So I'll move on to the next slide. So in terms of the programme content then, there's 2 pathways really to do the programme. And again, this is keeping in mind as well that we do have these students, different cohorts of students, and some students, it may suit them to do the 1-year full-time option. Some it suits them better to do the program over 2 years. So in both cases, the total number of credits is 30 or 60 credits, which is the credits required by the Teaching Council to teach English at second level. So at the 1-year option, then you would be studying 60 credits of English over the 1 academic year. The 2-year option, you're doing 30 credits a year. So the students take a selection of 2nd and 3rd year modules in English over 1 year. And that's divided down into seminar modules, which is small group teaching, and lecture modules. So students must take 2 seminar modules. The seminar modules, again, focused on particular areas. You're working with smaller groups of students, often engaging with a lecturer where the seminar is coming out of one of their research interests. And the other credits come from broader lecture modules. And students are expected to have an even split of second and third year modules. And moving on to the next slide. And this is just to give you an example of the kinds of modules that you can take. So examples of seminar modules, and there's lots more options available, but these are just to give you a sense or a flavor of the kinds of modules that you could enroll in. So examples of seminar modules: Poetry of the Vikings, Tolkien's Middle English, 5 Great Detectives, and an Introduction to Crime Fiction, which is probably one of our most popular seminar module at the moment. Animals, Aliens and Androids and Science Fiction, and an Introduction to Children's Literature, again, a very popular module at the moment. Examples of the lecture modules: Old English Language, Studies in Shakespeare, Victorian Literature, Modern Drama, Women in Literature, Contemporary Irish Writing. Again, there's many more of these, and one of the ways that you can actually, if you want to have a better sense of what modules are available, you can contact me, or you can look at the English Department website under current students, and you'll see our second and third year booklets there. Our module offerings change a little bit year by year, but that will also give you a good sense of the variety that is there on offer. So essentially, there's something for everyone. You will get to take modules that you have a particular interest in, and it also allows you the selection of modules as well also allows you to fulfill other requirements of the Teaching Council, like having taken modules in fiction, in drama, in poetry, that you will have enough options there to make sure that you are fulfilling those requirements. And Philip, the next slide then. So because there are quite a number of modules and there are those stipulations in terms of taking that mixture of second and third year seminars and lecture modules, you of course will need some guidance with regard to that. So in mid-August, the program coordinator, which is me, will send incoming students a greeting by email. At that point, I provide students with sufficient information so that they can start thinking about the module selection. So we're very conscious that students have a lot to think about in terms of which modules to take, which modules they feel would be most useful in terms of, let's say, Teaching Council requirements, to see and make sure that they're ticking the box in terms of what we require with second and third year modules. But we give you a good lot of help in that regard. So in mid-August, we're already providing you with information so that you can start thinking about your module selection. Then in early September, the coordinator, again, myself, will meet with incoming students. So I'll set up a meeting, face-to-face meeting with incoming students. And the reason why we meet face-to-face as well at that point in early September is that we allow the students, it's a good opportunity for the students to meet each other, because you will be taking seminars and lecture modules alongside second and third year students. So it's a really good opportunity to meet with each other, and we always make sure that there's enough time there for students to just introduce themselves to each other, to share communication details with each other so that you can stay in touch with each other. And at that induction meeting as well, I provide students with an introduction to the program, and also I go through a registration sheet with you. So students then, they don't have to worry about whether they're getting everything, whether they're ticking the box completely. They can just chat to me, and I'll go through with each student their choices and give them guidance if they require, if they need, if I think that they need to change some of their options. And the students, of course, then can stay in contact with me during the year and talk to me about any issues that they have, meet with me or email me throughout the year. So that is everything from the HDIP in English, and please feel free to send any questions or comments.
That's great. Thanks so much, Heather, for taking us through the program and giving us a sense of the likely cohorts of students who'd like to join that program each year. So we'll move on now to our MA in Medieval and Renaissance Literature, and Dr. Michael Bruce from the program team is going to talk us through that program. Thank you very much, Michael.
Thank you, Phil. So let's see. I suppose the just as Heather was saying, the HDIP gives you the opportunity to survey the full range of what the English department offers. The Medieval Renaissance MA program lets you drill down deeply into the earlier historical aspects of English literature and language and the historical context for those things. So I guess I'll comment a little bit more freely, but first we'll briefly go through the few slides here. Phil, if you can change. Okay, so there are over 200 postgraduate courses in UCC, and we run 3 full-time 1-year MA programs. Yes, okay, next. This program equips students with advanced skills for the study of writing in English and in Britain and Ireland up to the 17th century. So the first half of the academic subject matter of the English department considered chronologically. Okay. Students take seminar courses spanning the traditions of Old, Middle, and Early Modern English, from Beowulf through Chaucer to Shakespeare. So, Shakespeare's English seems pretty old to many people nowadays, but it's actually an example of modern English, just early modern English. And so many students aren't aware initially that there are separate stages of the evolution of the language before we even get to Shakespeare. So this MA brings you deeply in through all of those stages. Next. Students will gain the ability to read and contextualize the manuscripts and printed books in which this writing first appeared, and to trace the development of English verse, prose, and drama over time, together with its relationship to other European literary traditions, including Old Norse, Icelandic. Tom Burkett is an expert in that area. Yes, next slide, please. It's a year of writing and research. Students take 4 seminar modules. That is early book history, and then separately Old English, Middle English, and Early Modern English. 2 of those courses per semester. Each module assessed by a long essay, that is 2 per semester. Students complete the MA with a research dissertation of 15,000 words, working with a supervisor from April to the end of August. Okay, next. And my colleague who prepared the slide gave just a little snip of the calendar. I'm not sure how visible the slide is, but you can see that the course matter in parallel in the left-hand column. Each week brings a new topic in the history of the book, the physical construction of books as artifacts, the different types of writing that were used in different eras, the evolution of the culture of books. And then in parallel with that, in the right-hand column, what we have a sample of the Middle English literature that students will be exploring. So in a given week, your seminar work would have you going back and forth between practical material aspects of the history of books, and then literary interpretive questions arising from the kind of poetry that, or fiction or literary works that were written at any period along the way. All right. If you have or expect to have a good degree in English, a 2-1 or equivalent is our requirement. And you've studied, enjoyed, and done well in areas of English writing up to 1700, then get in touch with any of us, myself, Michael Booth, or Ken Rooney, Tom Burkett, Dr. Adele Semple, I think is on sabbatical at the moment, but that's the team. Now, if you were to be interested in pursuing a professional academic literary scholar as a university lecturer and a research and so on, this MA would give you a wonderful base to build on in pursuing a PhD in the subject areas that we cover. You could find no better experts in their fields than Dr. Burkett and Dr. Rooney for Old English and Medieval English literature, respectively. And it happens that my colleague, Dr. Adele Semple, and I are both Shakespeare scholars. So if you're interested in Shakespeare, you'd have plenty to work with there in terms of the range of approaches to field, the field that you can engage with in our MA before pursuing your own PhD work. And not only is this relevant to academic literary careers? But in Ireland, if you want to be an English teacher at the secondary level, that's going to involve some Shakespeare teaching in general. So it can be pragmatic preparation for secondary school teaching in that regard. And also, many people just love Shakespeare and find it rewarding to study on its own. So the coursework you do, the taught component of our master's program, will give you a solid basis of information about certain subject matter. But equally important is the thesis that you write on your own afterwards, and the opportunity that gives you to really learn by doing, to have the experience of crafting and refining an argument based on your own independent research, where you're exploring a question that you find genuinely interesting and learning what has been already said on the matter and what hasn't yet been said on the matter, and finding your own opportunity to articulate and develop a really deep and careful engagement with a topic that interests you. So that's probably true of all of the programs, but just depending which of the which particular subject matter seems most catches your interest. And I will say finally also that kind of in relation to Danny's point about what it means to be here in Cork, Cork has a special saliency in medieval and early modern literature, because if you're learning about the world of those centuries, that's the world that this city arises from, and the landscape here is well embedded or imbued with the history and culture in different levels of the Middle Ages and the early modern period. So I find it personally a very stimulating place to be thinking about these things. All right, thank you.
Thanks very much, Michael, for talking us through the medieval and Renaissance literature program. And yes, Cork is very much has its roots in Viking and medieval times. That's why so many of the streets are so cobbled and narrow. I think people coming from the US sometimes kind of can't get their head around why it's so winding the way it is, but we like it all the same. So we move now to our MA Modernities program, Modernities, Literature, Theory and Culture from the Romantics to the Present. And taking us through that is the program director, Professor Lee Jenkins. Thanks very much, Lee.
Thanks, Phil. If you could take me on to the first slide there for the Modernities. Thank you. So the MA in Modernities is a broad-based but also a focused program. We try to balance those two elements of it, in which we cover literature, theory and culture from the Romantic period right through to the present day, to 21st century forms of culture. So what we do, as you can see from the course content slide there, is we begin with looking at some of the dominant theories of modernity that you might then wish to apply to the text that you will study. So, for example, we might consider the theories of Nietzsche, of Freud, of Marx right at the beginning. But we also then look at a number of theoretical approaches to literature and modernity from the perspective, for example, of gender, identity, race, post-coloniality, feminism, eco-criticism, and so forth. So you have the kind of theoretical apparatus then to look at the text in which you're interested. So if we could move on, Phil, to the next slide, and we'll look at the modules. You can see there are two mandatory modules. The first of these, the Literary Research Skills module, is common to the Medieval and Renaissance MA also, and the module I was just describing, the Theories of Modernity module, is also mandatory. But after that, you choose 3 elective modules, and you can see the ones listed there: Ireland and Modernity, Literary and Cultural Modernisms, Postmodernism, and Romanticism and Modernity. But you may also, if you wish to do so, exchange one of those elective modules for an elective module in the Medieval and Renaissance MA, and vice versa. If you're doing the Medieval and Renaissance MA, you can choose one of the Modernities elective modules. So we have a number of students this year doing exactly that. So you see your choices there. And part 2 then, as Michael was saying, is the dissertation, where you would work with 1 or 2 supervisors on a topic of your own choice and devising. A couple of other things to add. following on from what Heather was saying about the HDIP in English, we've just opened up a new pathway in the MA in Modernities for studying the programme on a 2-year part-time basis, which may appeal to people who are working part-time, perhaps school teachers, perhaps HDIP graduates who are teachers would find it more manageable to do the programme over 2 years. I'd be very happy to discuss that pathway with anybody who's interested in that. So just to say a bit more about the dissertation, Phil, if you could move on to the last slide I have. These are just some of the things that people have written about in the past couple of years. The present class have got a whole new range of possible dissertation topics, including AI and robotics, the Gothic in various forms of film culture also. So within reason, the subject of your dissertation is entirely up to you, but your supervisor in the teaching team will help you to shape that when you come to make the decision about your dissertation. The only other thing I would add, which would hold true for the creative writing and the medieval and Renaissance MAs as well, is that I suppose the MA study is much more interactive and active than undergraduate study can sometimes be. So all of our teaching is small group teaching. We encourage discussion of the text in class rather than teachers telling you about a text. The students themselves very much participating in dialogue about them. So if that attracts you, that element of interaction and group work, then certainly, do consider applying for one of our MA programs. And I'm very happy to answer any questions you might have, either in the chats at the end of the webinar or by email or on Teams afterwards. So thanks very much, Phil.
Thanks very much, Lee, and great to hear that, yes, that program will have a part-time option as well for interested students, if it may, work better for people working around other commitments and balancing studies with other things as well. So now we'll actually move on and would like to invite one of our previous students, Yanis Kaprosioutis, to say a few words to us, or to talk to us a little bit about what it was like to be a student on one of the MA programs you've been hearing about. So Yanis, I think you're there if you want to unmute yourself.
Yes, hi Phil. Thanks for inviting me. Sorry about the background, but I'm working in a arts and crafts shop at the moment, so sorry about that. But I'm
No
here.
problem. Yeah, good background to have anyway. So Yanis, you were a student on the MA Modernities program, so I think it would be nice to hear from you, and to maybe hear a little about yourself and why you decided to study the Modernities program at UCC.
So I did my undergraduate in English, linguistics, English literature, linguistics, and translation in Greece, in the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki. So the program there was really interdisciplinary. So I wanted to do something similar because, to be honest, I always wanted to do a PhD in the end, and I was trying to figure out my topic. So I think that the Modernities MA was really helpful because it starts from the Romantic era to the present. So, and the most important thing for me actually was also the theoretical part of the MA. So yeah, I moved to Ireland to do that, and now I'm actually doing the PhD. I'm in the second year of my PhD, and I continue. So I had in my MA dissertation, my supervisor was Professor Graham Allen, and now we continue because we saw that my MA dissertation we could do more with my MA dissertation. So now we continue together with Graham Allen and Dr. Alan Gibbs in the PhD.
Thanks, Yanis. Yes, and like you mentioned, you've continued on your studies to PhD level with us here at UCC as well, which is great. And I suppose, would you be able to tell us maybe what you enjoyed about doing your MA as well when you first got to Cork and started studying here?
I really enjoyed all the modules, especially the theoretical part really expanded my knowledge on different theories, especially post-structuralist theories that I was interested in. Also, there is an opportunity to, in the end of the MA, we had to organize and create everything about a mini conference and present our work in that mini conference. So that was a really good experience. We also had to create a blog about our studies and about I was always also writing about my experience in moving to another country. And the other thing was that we also had people coming over to talk to us from different departments and from different areas as well. So we had people from publications. They were talking to us about publication or other routes that we would be able to follow and build on with our MA. So that was very interesting as well. So we were not only focusing on literature and literary studies, but there were other things around it as well.
Great, thanks very much, Yannis. And I suppose to give us an idea of what you're doing now, did you want to maybe tell us a little bit of what you're pursuing for your PhD as well?
Yeah, so we with Professor Graham Allen and Dr. Alan Gibbs, we kind of build on what we did in my MA. So my studies about the carnival and the grotesque in literature, and how these medieval themes can be seen in 19th century and romantic literature. So I think the MA really helped me very much with that, because you can see the interdisciplinary nature of my thesis now, because we touch upon medieval themes in 19th century literature, and we also we have a post-structuralist approach on that. And so yeah, this and the good thing is that we also get to teach in the PhD. So we get to teach first year students, and also we have the chance to create our own seminar and deliver that to second year students, which is really good experience for later on and for now, actually, because yeah, we get to understand what we are doing as well in our dissertation by teaching it. So it's a really good experience. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Yannis. Yeah, really good to hear that you're finding, your journey on from your MA has been, rewarding as well, and starting that PhD and getting that experience of teaching, an area of interest to you as well, to some of our undergraduates too. That's great. Hey,
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Yannis. Really appreciate you joining us today and sharing your experiences with us. I think we can move on to some questions now. One of the program teams had this in their slides. It gave me a bit of a laugh last week, so I wanted to keep that in as well, just to bring it up on screen. So I think we've had some questions coming in the chat, so we can take another look at those for the remaining few minutes. Just bear with me now. Thanks to some of our presenters too. They've already been answering some of those questions. So yeah, we did have a question about the deadline for registering for the MA, what to include in the application. And yes, thanks very much, Lee, for picking that one up. Applications will remain open until July. July or August, really, for anyone that's applying within Ireland, the UK, or the EU. Applications will close a bit earlier in June, I think June 30th, for any international applicants. And that's really to make sure that there's time to apply for a visa. As part of your application, you generally provide your transcripts, a personal statement, details of any additional training or education you've had as well. So some programs will vary depending on what, from program to program, it will vary depending on what the program team need from your application, but generally that's the type of information that you'll need. And I can put a link to our UCC Apply application system in the chat as well. Okay, just as a question regarding Digital arts and humanities as well. And I think, Stephen, you picked that one up as well. So as long as, yes, if you're coming from a different background and have a minimum second class honours degree, which would be equivalent to the Irish NQF level 8. And on our web pages as well, you can find links to qualification equivalency too. So if you haven't completed a degree in Ireland, you can check the equivalency there, or if you have any questions on that, you can drop me a line as well. I'll be reaching out to everyone that registered via email with the recording of this session later, so you'll have that too. And yeah, I can see there's a question from somebody regarding creative writing and applying while you're in your final year. And that's right, Danny. Thanks for picking that up. You can receive a conditional offer if you're not, if you haven't finished your degree yet. Thanks, Janice. I can see you're just popping out. Thanks a million. You can apply for conditional admission if you don't have your degree results yet, or likewise if you're applying and would need to provide proof of English proficiency as well as part of your application, you can submit that too. And yeah, Danny, did you want to pop in there?
Yeah, I might just, while we're on that topic, you mentioned the application process. There's one slight difference with creative writing in that we would also require a sample of your creative writing, and we place a heavy emphasis on that as well. So if anyone is considering applying for the creative writing MA, I would just emphasize that we do look at those samples as really important, integral to the application. So put in your best creative writing and you know, do a bit of work on it and stuff, because we do receive a lot of applications. So that's an important part of that. And I'm pretty sure we close earlier than everyone else in terms of, I think May the 1st is our
yes.
So just to point out that difference as well. But that was it. Thanks.
Thanks, Danny. Yes, that's a great point. Given the competitive nature of the program, that not all applicants will be admitted. So just to bear that in mind, and the earlier deadline, there will be an earlier deadline for some programs. So you can check that as well on the program pages, but would always encourage people, if they can, to apply earlier. It just gives you more time to kind of line up your application items, and then, you know, start thinking about other aspects of you know, coming to Cork to join a program in terms of accommodation and getting everything kind of lined up there as well. And I can see there's a question as well on the trajectory of grades considered, or is it just based on a cumulative GPA? Typically, a student's application will be considered based on their final GPA or their results to date if they haven't completed their MA, or if they haven't completed their undergraduate studies to date. But you can find details, and I'll share the program application, the program pages as well when I follow up by email, as regards the program pages and where to find the entry requirements for each program too. And when do you get a response if you apply for an MA program? So what will happen initially is that you'll submit your application through UCC Apply. Our Graduate Studies Office or our International Office will then check the application to make sure everything is on file that is needed by program teams. So that's the transcripts, the personal statement, references if your program of choice requires those, to make sure everything is online or on file. And once that's confirmed, it will be shared with the program team for their review. So once the program team have reviewed and made a decision as well, you'll receive an email update with that decision. Okay, and applications generally, they would be considered, you know, ongoing on a rolling basis. I know for the creative writing program, there's more maybe of a batch review for that, because applicants are kind of reviewed against, you know, other applicants as well, which is normal enough in programs like this, and students are admitted then based on those reviews. Just checking if we have any other last minute questions. I know we're just conscious that we've a couple of minutes left on the webinar. Okay, so I will just pop the link to the UCC application portal in the chat if anybody wants to have a look at that. You know, it takes about 60 seconds to create an account, and then once you've done that, you can log in, start adding your information. You can start an application, work on some of it, and then save your progress and come back to it at a later stage if that works for you better. So I'll just add that in the chat. And MA students, do they get to teach on, do they get the opportunity to teach? I don't think so, no. So it'll be for the students who move on to PhD studies and complete further research. as well. There may be opportunities to maybe with the UCC Skills Centre, if you're interested in maybe supporting others who, others who've started their university studies and they're, new to academic referencing and gathering their sources and everything like that. So there's probably a scope there to get involved with something like that. Or if you want to, I know of people as well who've maybe worked with local homework clubs that's organised through UCC volunteering as well. So if you're kind of keen to maybe get a sense of what it's like to work with younger people, that might be an opportunity for you too. And yes, thanks, Danny, for clarifying. So students will usually find out within a couple of months of making their application, as the program team do sit down and look at applications every 6 to 8 weeks. Excellent. Okay, I think if there's no further questions, we can maybe draw the session to a close for now. Thanks very much, everybody, for joining. Glad to have welcomed you here. And thanks so much as well to our presenters for taking the time to talk to us about their programs. So like I say, I'll be in touch soon with the recording of this session, so you can watch it back at a time that suits you. And I'll also include those links as well. Just they're kind of handy to have in one place for reference if you're considering postgraduate study with us in autumn 25. So thanks very much, everyone. Have a good rest of the day. Bye for now. That's all.